Is NUMSA satisfied with the recent 3-year wage deal? Why is the National Employers Association of South Africa locking out their workers? Was NEASA indeed sidelined at the negotiation process? Could NUMSA's suggested court interdict break this deadlock? What time is it? It's question time. Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Mpho Tsedu. South Africa's collective bargaining policy has become a political and economic headache, particularly after the recent 5-month-long AMCU-led strike. Shortly afterwards was the 1-month-long NUMSA strike, which ended with the union signing a 3-year wage deal. The National Employers Association of South Africa rejected this offer and has been locking out the workers who were on strike, claiming this to be constitutional. Meanwhile, Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa has suggested that the government may push ahead with reforms to curb damaging industrial action. My guests today in studio, Gerald Papenfuss, NEASA Chief Executive, and Stephen Nhlapo, Head of NUMSA Collective Bargaining. Gentlemen, excuse me, welcome to the show. Mr. Papenfuss, why are you locking workers out?
When NUMSA declared or gave notice that they were going on strike at the beginning of July, we did the thing that employers do in those circumstances, and that was to give them our notice of our intention to lock them out. That's how it works. And then the negotiations commenced or continued in July. And the Minister of Labour intervened in this process.
Yes.
And she called SIFSA, the other employer body, to bilaterals between SIFSA and NUMSA. And they emerged out of that process with a deal, which we were excluded from. We weren't part of those negotiations. And the minister, and you know, the day the minister did that, we told her in a letter, delivered it at her office to say, Minister, you're making a very big mistake here. Mm-hmm. You are leaving out the biggest role player in this industry. NEASA has 23,000 members, of which 3,000 is in this industry. You cannot leave out a body representing 3,000 employers out of negotiations. So they emerged from these negotiations without addressing the stuff which we had on the table, which was an entry-level wage, a new entry-level wage, only for newcomers to unlock this industry for new entries, to negotiate a better exemptions policy to create more flexibility. Yeah. And of course, they came out with a 10% increase. And if you want me, I can do that. I might perhaps do it later to tell you what is actually happening in this industry. We are losing jobs at a terrible rate. This industry is a quarter the size it was 30 years ago.
Mr. Papenfuss.
And we had to address these issues. These issues were not addressed.
Is locking out workers a solution to the problems that you have?
Well, what do you do if you are in negotiations, you have certain issues on the table,
yes,
and people go behind your back and they negotiate a deal? Now, locking out is not the final solution, discussions are, but so far, from the day we did that, we opened to discussion. What we've been faced so far is an application in the Labour Court on Monday by NUMSA.
Yes.
We were in the Labour Court on Tuesday. They brought an interdict. We were in court on Tuesday, and they withdraw that application.
Do you think you're going to win this battle in the manner that you're going?
Well, what is the question is, what is the alternative? Let me tell you, there's only one solution here, and that's discussion. But we cannot force anybody.
But you also can't discuss whilst locking people out.
No, you can talk. Well, we had to negotiate while workers were striking. We had to negotiate while workers were striking. And the right to strike and the right to lock out has a similar status in the Labour Relations Act. It's no different.
Okay, let's hear what Mr. Nhlapo has to say really regarding this matter.
Look, first let me say I'm not sure if NEASA has got representation as they're claiming to be as we speak, I don't think they will sustain the lockout. They've got now less than 100 companies. Our state statistics shows that there are less than 100 companies that are still looking at our members. But as we said, on the same day, and we've been inviting them all along for a dialogue, and they never come through. We said to them, let's address your concerns.
Did you invite Mr. Papenfas?
We even invite them on the signing ceremony to say, can you come and participate and engage with us?
Yeah, but you can't just invite them on the signing ceremony.
No, but even that, when we had engagement, we engage with the employers. We don't choose who's coming in the employers. We are trade union, they are employers. So we're not going to choose who's supposed to make the delegation of employers. So in the delegation of employers, if them and CIFS have got their political fights, let them do their political fight, but leave our members alone. Because we invited employers, we're meeting with the employers. Who forms the delegation of the employers is none of our business, it's the business of the employers. The same as them, when we go to the discussion, what makes our delegation as labor is none of them. Okay. So they've got their own problems with CIFSA, therefore they must sort that problem out.
Why?
Now they should not be including our members in this process.
Why didn't you attend?
I think Stephen must get his facts right.
No,
we're a party. We're a party to this bargaining
Mr.
council,
Poppen
and
first.
we were in the negotiations.
Okay.
He's right.
Yeah.
But the negotiations facilitated, which was the crucial part of these negotiations, facilitated by the Minister of Labour. You can't go to a meeting where you're not invited to. Even I wrote a letter to the Minister, and I repeat that, in which I said to a Minister, we must come to these negotiations.
But he's saying that they even invited you.
No, that's can I say that's nonsense?
Of course, you tell him that he's talking nonsense.
No, well, you know what you do is, you bring the Minister of Labour into this discussion, and then I'll ask her, why didn't she invite us? Look, let's not play.
Who are you to invite them if they are expecting the invitation from the minister?
No. Look, we don't invite Gerald, we don't invite the president of CIFSA, we invite employers. Now, employers are represented. We don't even know what criteria do they use to be represented. We invite employers or employers association, and if they come with their delegation. So we invited them as they participate in the negotiations. They're in the delegation, in the negotiations, they are in there.
All right.
But when we come into this meeting, if they are not there, I don't question who is representing who here. All what we're saying is this is labor, this is employers. Can we deal with the issues?
Now, why can't NESA members afford 10% and they can only afford 8%, whereas the others can afford 10%?
Well, you know what? This is the most ridiculous arrangement you can get. Let me explain the situation. This industry, 40 years ago, 1972, the industry was 4 times the size it currently is. Since then, this industry has been in a downward spiral. We lost 700,000 jobs in 30 years.
Okay.
NUMSA said at the outset of these negotiations that this industry lost 250 jobs in the last 5 years. Why can't we afford 8%? It is because this industry cannot afford this, but will I continue after the break?
Yeah. Oh, you may just come and sit here, actually. We have to go to a short break. Please don't go away.
Storms have affected several hundred families in low-lying areas on the Cape Flats. Disaster management remains on high alert. Residents have not yet been evacuated.
The area is prone to flooding and residents are weary.
Evicted Lwandle residents near Strand in Cape Town will spend another night in community halls.
They come with sticks here and all that other stuff. So what is going to happen to our children, to the people in the morning who's coming to the bus stop? Huh?
Primetime News, daily at 6 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. My guests today are Gerard Pappenfuss, NIASA Chief Executive, and Stephen Hlapo, Head of NUMSA Collective Bargaining. Now, gentlemen, welcome back. Mr. Pappenfuss, the industry has lost 700,000 jobs, you said.
In 30 years.
Okay.
We're constantly losing jobs. Now, it is not about why can't employers afford 8%? How do I know that the industry cannot afford what we currently have? The job losses shows me. Okay. And in collective bargaining, you're supposed to negotiate minimums and leave it to employers to pay more, because there are employers in our ranks that can pay more than 10% and even do pay more. Yeah. But you can't negotiate a tariff or a fee for those employers that can afford more. You negotiate for the lowest. The people that cannot afford that. So you cannot negotiate high wages. You negotiate the lower wage. There are our employers, of course, and I've said that can afford more and will pay more. But this industry is in a downward spiral. But you know what is so interesting is that the CEO of SIFSA, when they agreed to the 10%, amongst others, he said they are reluctantly agreeing to this, and they said, and I quote, this industry will have massive job losses after this.
That's typical of employers. They never ever agree to any.
But what's happening with this industry? Now, NUMSA must tell me, at the beginning of these negotiations, when they said this industry lost 258,000 jobs in 5 years, we said we must address this issue. And our proposals was there to address this issue. That was not, they simply did not address these issues.
No, look, I think NIASA is making a big mistake. They don't know what they're talking about. Job losses in the whole industry, it's a problem of the international economy. Crisis of international economy, that's the problem. It's not because of wages, that's the first thing. But what is amazing for us is that the offer of NIASA is very racist. One is that for all employees that on the higher grade, which majority of them are white artisans, they will afford 8%, even where we said they can get a lower wage, which is 7%. People who are supposed to get 10%, by the way, are all black workers at the middle. And that's where they want to cut. They did not even cut even a percentage up there where there's white employees. And that's one thing that we think this is a very racist thing. Second, they want to make an entry level for black employees. An entry level currently, if you go in the industry, there's no a single employer that pays a minimum wage to artisan or white artisan. They all paid by a market rate. And 8% of the market rate is too much. Now all our employees who are in the minimums, and it's true, the industry is negotiating minimums. What we have now is minimums. And we set the proper minimums. We can't go to slavery wages. At this day and age, we want workers to earn slavery wages. That's not working. But also, how do you build an economy when workers don't have a buying power? If we pay workers, for instance, what they're proposing is 15 rand an hour for workers. How are you going to survive with that? Look at how increases have been going, petrol and everything.
But so, you know what? I'm sorry to interrupt you. I want you to explain to me where does race come in here?
Let me explain properly. If they were not affording the 8%, it should not, or it was a question of affordability. You must start at the highest grade and say, I can't afford here. And in the grade we're talking about, majority, if not all employees, are white artisan employees. There they don't cut even a percentage.
Okay.
Not a percentage. And then they come to us at a lower grade because our offer says 10 to 8. They cut where there is 8 point something, and all there are black employees. You can go and do your studies. That's point number one. Point number two, they say to us, majority of our members are in minimums. And the increase that we're talking, the majority of those employees, for example, the second year we talk about 7% for higher grade. They talk about 8%.
Okay.
They can afford to give those workers higher salaries, and they give our members low salaries.
Now, are you
8% of 8% of a market rate of an artisan, which is more than 100 rand per hour. It's far, far less than the 10% of a worker on the lower grade, which is the rate is 31 rand an hour.
Are you saying that NIASA is a racist organization which represents white interests?
I'm saying it's the offer they are putting now is racist, and the offer that we put in now is an offer that wants to keep the status quo, that want to oppress these workers, that want to... Can I tell you, is there a worker at this day and age that you can go to workers? We're struggling now. We're saying salaries of workers are low, gap between the rich and the poor is widening, and then you say to the poor one, get half of what you're earning now. Currently, a minimum worker in the industry gets 5,300. If you half that salary, it's going to 2,300 rand per month. Who can live with that salary?
Mr. Papenfuss, I'm concerned about the racial connotations here. Why are you doing that?
Yeah, you know what? The racial thing is always utilized when you run out of arguments. You know what is a racial thing? It's something that when you look into your own heart, you determine that. I don't find that in my heart. I'm looking at a particular interest. But I want to tell Stephen something. This industry is by far the most expensive industry in South Africa, wages-wise. In fact, the second most expensive industry in South Africa, wages-wise, is 40% less expensive than this industry. Let me explain this to you. If you cut this industry minimum wage for new entries in half, it will be double the amount that a person in the taxi industry, for instance, that does the same work, manual work. Double that. Now, why do we do that? Because it's racist? No. 17 million people in South Africa is currently on grants. Our unemployment rate is higher than 38%. It's very close to 50% unofficial employment rate. Now, what do is to keep those people out of work. We are satisfied to pay people grants, but we're not prepared to allow them to work. Now, on the current minimum wage, let me explain to you now. It will cost an employer now on the new rate of this industry, 8,500 rand a month cost to company, all benefits included. 8,500 rand. Is that a lot of money? No, I don't think so. But we can't win. The debate is not what is a good wage. If the market cannot afford a wage, how does the market respond to that?
No.
The market only doesn't employ. If you tell an employer, sir, you must pay somebody 100 rand an hour, all he doesn't employ if he can't employ.
Okay.
So
Mr.
that's the market.
Papenfuss.
The market determines the rate.
Now I must deal with this. Because in any employment relation, there's no proof that if employing a person, you employ a person when there's a job, to do a job. It can't mean that if there's one machine operating. If I have my salary, there's not going to be two people operating in that machine. Even if I have my material, even if I say I can work for a loaf of bread, there's still only one person needed for that machine. So halving salary doesn't create jobs. Okay. Anyway.
Hold the thought there. We're going to take a quick break. Please don't go away. When we return, we'll wrap up the program.
Zoom into Africa. This is Nigeria. The president is Mr. Goodluck Jonathan. Nigeria attained independence in 1960. The population is more than 166 million people. One of the major languages spoken is English. Monetary unit is Nigerian Naira.
Welcome back. This is Question Time. You're watching. My guest today, Gerard Pappenfuss, NIASA Chief Executive, and Stephen Hlapo from NUMSA Collective Bargaining. Gentlemen, welcome back. Perhaps let's just wrap up this issue regarding the percentages and the lockouts. Now, the lockout is going to continue, Mr. Pappenfuss?
Yeah.
Unapologetically so.
Oh yeah.
But is it constitutional?
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
If people say it's unconstitutional, they must challenge on that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Look, I don't know, because as I said now, initially we had 200 companies that plus or minus 200. We now less than 100 companies. We're engaging employers. We're showing them how NIASA can mislead them. Because anyway, you're postponing eventuality.
It will happen in the
It's going to happen anyway.
Okay.
Because they are a minority in terms. There can be a large number of companies, but in terms of the membership or employees, they are a minority. So the Act talks about employees. It does not talk about the number of. So anyway, they are going to have to implement it, even now or later. So they're beginning to realize that they need to implement it.
Deputy President Ramaphosa has suggested some strike law reforms. I suppose you would agree with those, that, for instance,
Oh, absolutely. What happened in these negotiations were not negotiations, it was blackmail. It was blackmail because you cannot negotiate whilst people who want to work are not allowed to work. You see, NUMSA, their power is much exaggerated. They do that through intimidation and violence. And you're talking about numbers. We know how strong we are. We are 3,000 companies in this industry employing 80,000 employees. There's no other employees organization almost close to our size, employees organization. NUMSA, if NUMSA do not utilize violence and intimidation, the strike will fail. Why? Because there's no appetite for it. There were companies that were closed during the strike. Companies which indicated that the employees have indicated they don't want to go on strike.
Okay.
But they were forced to do that. So if government will have to intervene, because you cannot pull people out of factories, shambag them, pull admin staff, ransack their offices, and then say that's a strike. It's illegal and it's unlawful. And unless government do something about this, we are heading to a terrible future.
Why is NUMSA harassing people who do not agree with your strike?
I don't know why does they take this. This country has got a law. It's not a jungle of its own. If you harass a person, there's police, there's law. I don't know what are they talking about.
No,
because
but how do the police arrest somebody out of 30,000 people who are marching?
No.
But, I mean, tell the truth, Mr. Hlapo. NUMSA members ransacked.
No.
They looted.
No.
They assaulted people.
Your information. You see, if you talk about NUMSA members,
yes,
we had 220,000 members. And out of that, less than 50 were arrested for whatever reason. But let me tell you, this thing of us harassing people, it's none or here nor there.
Okay.
There are problems, so we had problems, and we dealt with. And we said workers are going to be disciplined to be doing that. I can't say all the 220 or 100,000 workers who are in the streets of Johannesburg on the first day of the march were taken forcefully from their homes or from where they are sitting.
Probably they didn't feel the pain at that stage. It was still fresh.
No, but they all participated. They came, they participated, they vote on their feet.
Okay.
That's the point number one that we need to be doing.
Now, shouldn't labor unions hold secret ballots for strikes?
This thing of secret ballot, we fought it long time ago.
Why?
We cannot go back to that.
Why?
No, our members, it's not a requirement that we think is going to work.
Of course, we're
our
talking reforms here. Why can't you reform the rules?
No, our members take decision in their own structures that you go into. We've got different structures. But I can't understand everybody saying employees, unions, as if These ones who have locked us out, they can't ballot. But that's not an issue. The issue is we've got structures, they've got their structures, they've got their rights, we've got their rights. Leave us. If our members don't want to go on strike, they will simply, in their structures, take that decision.
Won't they be intimidated then?
By who? It's their organization.
No, but you can't raise a hand in a meeting where you say, I don't want us to go on strike, whilst, the most powerful are saying we're striking.
You don't know the most democratic organizations.
It's NUMSA.
Yeah. No, at labor unions, especially NUMSA. Okay. We are democratic. We allow dialogue. You can go there. We even gave Mr. Papenfus and his team in our own structures to address us, to listen to him.
You didn't howl him?
No, we didn't howl him. We asked him, he was very happy. It's just today, I don't know, I can't understand what he's saying.
I'm in fact still very, very happy. You know what I find interesting here is when the nation listens to him, when he said there's no violence, nobody's believing him. Because everybody see the people with the red T-shirts, unless somebody stole a lot of red T-shirts out of a store somewhere. They were people with red T-shirts engaging in violence. And if you go to YouTube, you'll see a lot of stuff. In fact, companies had to bring interdicts, and we're not going to go there. I know it might be difficult for a union to control violence sometimes, and you don't necessarily blame it on particular persons, but that it happened is true. And I think that two things need to happen. I think the secret ballot is very important. The so-called the dynamics in structures where people need to vote on whether they strike or not is simply not conducive for a real democracy. Okay. And secondly, violence has to be stopped somehow, because you cannot negotiate whilst people are prevented from going to work, those who want to go to work, because the playing field is not level if that happens. And I just want to say a last thing. I want to invite him that if he wants to talk to me, he must call me. Okay. And the onus is on him.
All right. Mr. Papenfus, thank you very much. Mr. Nhlapo.
Thank you. I'll invite him now. We can start when we go out.
That was question time for today. Have yourself a wonderful time. Goodbye.